So what is factorization? Factorization is when we express a polynomial as a product. For example, ax plus ay is our polynomial. A times x plus y is what we get after we factorize. And in this case, a would be our factor. So you might be wondering, why is factorization important? Well, there are two main reasons. Factorization helps us simplify polynomials. In addition, it can help us solve equations in the future. Now let's get into how we factorize. There's a simple three-step method to factorize. First, we need to make sure we find the common factor. In order to find the common factor, you can ask what is similar in this expression. After you find the common factor, write the common factor. Finally, our third step is to write whatever's left from the original polynomial expression. If we look at xy plus xz, we can see that we have an x in the first term and an x in the second term. Therefore, x must be our common factor. Let's move on to the second step, which is to write the factor. Then finally, the third step, write what's left. We already wrote an x, so we can ignore that and move on to the y. Then we also have a plus sign, and then again, we already wrote the x, so we can ignore that, and then a z. So this leaves us with our final expression, x times y plus z. And this is our final factored form. Let's take a look at another example. Here we have 5x minus 15. Let's look at our first step to find what's similar. 15 is actually a multiple of 5 times 3, which means that we actually have two 5s, or 5, as a common factor in this expression. We need to make sure that we remember that numbers can be broken down to find common factors as well. Now that we found our common factor, let's write it, and then finally let's write what's left. We wrote the 5 already, so we can just write the x and then the minus sign. And then we already wrote a 5, but 15 is a combination of 5 times 3. So we still have a 3 that we have to write left over. Now let's look at our final example. We have 3x squared y z squared minus 6x squared y cubed z squared. Let's still follow the same 3 steps. First, we're going to find our common factor. Let's first look at the 3. So we have a 3 in this term and a 6 in the next term. Is 6 divisible by 3? Yes, it is. So now we can find that 3 is our common factor. Then we have an x squared, and luckily we have this in both terms, so that's also part of our common factor. And then we have a y and a y cubed. We can take one of those y's. Y cubed can be broken down into y and y squared, so we can also take a y as a common factor. And then we have z squared. Since we have a z squared in both terms, z squared can also be our common factor. So it's important to note that you can have multiple common factors, not just one single number or variable. You can have a combination. Now that we have our common factor as 3x squared y z squared, and then we can write what's left. So we already took care of the 3, we took care of the x squared, we took care of the y, and we also took care of the z squared. So we took care of the entire first term. What do we do in this case? This is similar to a division problem. If you take this expression and divide it by itself, what do we get? We get 1. So that's what we're going to write down. Then we're going to keep the minus sign, and then we're going to find what's left from the second term. We have a 6, and since we divided by 3, we have a 2 left over. We completely divided by x squared and are left with 1. Then we divided by the y and we're left with y squared. And then we divide by the z squared and we're left with 1. So this gives us our final factored expression, 3x squared y z squared times 1 minus 2y squared. Now try some problems on your own. Pause the video and check back in for the answers. So let's recap. Today we learned what factorization is. Factorization is the process of turning a polynomial into a factored expression. We learned that it's important to help us simplify polynomials and also helps us solve equations in the future. We also learned about the 3-step method to factorize: finding the common factor, writing the common factor, and then writing what's left. It was also important to note that we can have multiple numbers and variables to all be a common factor, and that we should break down different numbers in order to find factors within numbers, such as when we broke down 15 into 3 times 5. What questions do you guys still have? If you have any other questions, feel free to leave a comment down below. Also, feel free to comment a video idea for the future. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!